Welcome back to the Challenge Insiders here on Reality Pop. I'm your host, Chris, and with me, I've got two very special guests, or not guests, co-hosts of the show, Drew and Chantel, both dressed for the occasion. And it's Christmas here, and I don't even have the full get-up. But Drew, Merry Christmas. Chantel, Merry Christmas. Welcome to the show. Chantel, how have you been?
I mean, I'm pretty good. I'm in a new locale, so setting up, I'm like sweating, but I knew to still wear Christmas gear because I had a feeling that Drew would dress up. And I knew, Chris, that even though it was actually Christmas, that you would not be dressing up. So I especially needed to dress for the occasion.
Bring it, definitely. Yeah, I need to get I feel like I need to get Christmas gear and stuff like this. Now that I'm fully in the podcasting world, I can't just be normal and average on these shows, Otherwise, you guys might just kick me out of the Challenge Insiders Palace here. Drew, how are you doing, my friend?
I mean, all I have to say is save the palace, because I should have lost people. I was guaranteed to lose people, and I didn't. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. We can go on.
And Chris is not lucky.
Yeah, I am not lucky. Listen, we'll get into it. We'll get into this episode. There was a lot that happened this episode, and yeah, it's definitely not the Christmas gift I wanted here before we go into the end of the year, but it is something, and we'll dissect it and talk about it. I do want to welcome the few people here that we have in the live. I know we're on a different time here today. So we've got Casty here saying, first time live, Merry Christmas. It's 6 a.m. here in Philippines. Casta, Merry Christmas to you as well. Great to have you on the live. Hey, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good holiday. Adrian Celeste. Adrian, I actually finished my last day of work yesterday, and I do have 3 weeks leave coming up, so I am very excited about that. Jules, welcome to the stream as well, and happy holidays to you as well. What an episode, guys. We start this episode off with the King's Palace doing their thing, Tech Money creating a new song. Hopefully he's got the copyrights on that thing. He's got it on Spotify, and he's going to be making hopefully a bit of bucks from this if he doesn't win the show. What do you think, Chantel? Do you like this song? Do you think it can be a catch?
Save the palace, save the palace. And you heard that they made some music to it. I know you both watched Survivor this season, and there was one character, Shan, who had her sinister, evil music that they put an orchestra behind. So the fact that they put some music behind and they gave him an actual soundtrack, I think it bodes well for there to be a possibility that Tech sings that song at the reunion. You know what I mean? I feel like it has some legs.
Yeah, Tech to go on tour with the King's Palace, traveling through America. It might be coming to a show close to you, Drew.
So it was actually put on Spotify. It's on Apple Music and iTunes. And Tech, if you go to his YouTube channel, he shows the behind the scenes of them creating the beat and singing to it, and everybody is on the track and everything. Latyrian raps to it. He has a great flow. Nehemiah does some auto-tune singing, and Melinda is some background, some extra noises and stuff, but they're all credited on the song on Spotify. And I say go bump that, because I already hit that and I hit that loop. I've listened to it 15 times today. It's so good and so catchy. And I want to see them play that at the reunion more than I wanted to see Emmy play her song at the reunion.
Yeah. Well, this episode was all about saving the palace, because we had a few people from the King's Palace in danger here this episode. They've been very obvious about their alliance throughout this whole season. There's been no secrecy about it. It's a lot of celebration together in the room. And a lot of shock here from Nehemiah this episode, with Brad having to go his own way, and Brad and Nehemiah having a relationship outside of the game as well. Chantel, I always find it interesting on these shows when something doesn't go someone's way, suddenly it's not fair, or the person's not playing by their rules, or, Nehemiah not being very happy with Brad here in the case of Brad wanting to go his own way. What did you make out of all of this, with Nehemiah having his own alliance, Brad and him kind of trying to work together? There's clearly a friendship outside of the game here as well. What did you make of all of this?
Well, I was watching this episode live on Twitch, and I think about 4 or 5 times I said, "Shut up, Brad." shut up, Brad, shut up. Like, he's like, oh my God, like, I can't, it tore me up. Like, I couldn't do it. It was in a really hard spot. It wasn't that hard for you, Brad. Like, relax. Like, and Nehemiah seems he got it. He was like, yeah, I get it. Like, it sucks. And Melinda's like, yeah, I get it. It sucks. And in the confessionals, Brad is like, you know, like, he should understand the position that I'm in and the fact that, like, we're not on the same side. And I thought he was feeling more guilty about it than what we saw Nehemiah or Melinda, like, any sort of guilt trip they gave him. Like, I thought that they handled it pretty decently considering they're supposed to be friends. So I wasn't a fan of how Brad handled it. I was annoyed and I rolled many times.
Drew, what do you think?
I think this is where we see the stark difference, whatever it's called, from the main season to this season, because in the main season 37 was all about friendship. You can't do anything against our friendship. If you even try to help your team out and maybe even jeopardize our team, you will not be my friend anymore, or I'm going to make you cry. Whereas this episode, we did see some friendships come into play. Nehemiah was hoping to bank on the friendship with Brad. He did get upset by it, but we saw that they were two adults that were able to have a conversation in the morning and get past it and know that this is just a game, which is where we see the adult versions of where the challengers could be, and knowing that this is a game, this is for game strategy, and this is how we're positioned in the game, rather than taking this super personal or guilt tripping your own friends with it. So I liked seeing the contrast between what we saw in All-Stars 2 and then the whole season of the challenge.
And definitely, it's interesting because, you know, Nehemiah had his moment of not being happy. He was going hard at Brad when they went out to go have some food and drink. And what was good to see was Brad actually being really mature about it and just letting it go and not starting a confrontation out there. You know, I know it's maybe not the best for a TV show, but it shows growth from someone like Brad, who's been a hothead in the past as well. And I think that, you know, Chantal, I hear what you're saying in regards to Brad, you know, saying how difficult the decision it was and all that. And he tried to save him, which we know that's BS. He didn't really try to save him. He was always going to throw him in. But, you know, I think with Brad, a lot of this is also thinking, what does this look like to the outside world? You know, me and Nehemiah are supposed to be boys. I'm betraying him here. How am I going to be perceived? Because it is a different time where people hate on people very easily online and can really smear someone's name based on a decision they made in a game such as this. So I felt like it wasn't necessarily just the friendship between Nehemiah and Brad that he was concerned about here. He was also concerned about that image that he has outside of this, being a dad, having kids. The kids are probably watching the show as well. You know, that type of thing is probably in his head as well. But it was an interesting thing to play out. And I agree with you, Drew. It was great to see them sit down like adults the next day and talk about it, because, you know, a lot of the times in the actual show, we just don't see people going up against each other head to head anymore because they're afraid to do so, you know, for all of the reasons we've just mentioned here. What did you guys think of the daily challenge here? We had the hot, you know, we had I think it was TJ coming in with a Dodge, a very old school Dodge. We had some of the monster truck in the background. They were on a swing that they had to swing back and forth to get these flags from different cars and things like that. I thought it was visually one of those challenges that, for me personally, I enjoyed watching. It looked like something that if I was on a show such as The Challenge, I would like to do. I like these things that gets my adrenaline pumping, and I probably would be similar to Jody. I would probably get very bossy and start shouting it, you know, at my partner to swing me back and forth and get real in the moment. What did you guys think about it? For me, it was a really, really fun challenge to watch personally.
It was super fun, and I'm still obsessed with Ayana screaming. It's like, like, cause she's so tough, you know, like nobody can mess with me, and has like a lot of attitude, and like just to see that she completely went to like shrieking young girl was like, that was my favorite part, obviously, about that challenge. I also loved how Nehemiah and Melinda went first, and they really set the bar really high. I was so rooting for them to do even better, and I think that they would have probably one, if they had gone later in the list where the winners of this challenge went, just because they were able to see what they needed to, how many flags they needed to get to win, and they also could see the strategy behind like what's the most efficient way to do it. So the fact that they went first and they set a really high bar, I thought that was really impressive, and the whole challenge was fun to watch. I enjoyed the whole thing, including "I'm Like a Bird." I don't even love Nelly Furtado. Go Ayana.
But the music was so appropriate, them swinging back and forth like a bird, trying to catch the flags. I mean, these producers know what they're doing with these soundtracks.
Oh yeah. And this is how you do a challenge car daily challenge, because not to go back and keep on comparing, but the car daily challenge that we got in season 37 was on top of the cars doing donuts. We can't tell what's going on. We don't know who's winning or what they're supposed to be doing or how we track what they're doing. This is so cut and dry. It was so exciting. It was fun to see. Oh, I know why Darrell and Janelle weren't doing well, or why Melinda and Nehemiah were doing well. And it was just nice to see that you can follow. It's also fun to watch. It's also fun because you want to do it and you're rooting for everybody. Yeah, I think that Brad and Jody are coming out as a strong pair. It's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough to beat them in any point of this game, it feels like. And it's for them to go last is such a huge advantage as well. Like Nehemiah and Melinda did such a great job despite going first and not knowing exactly how to do it. But Brad and Jody, the final like heave, the Hail Mary toss at the end of the game for the Alliance to take away from the King's Palace power by one flag. And of course, it's going to be Jody and Brad pulling out this win. But everybody did really well. It was really fun. I love when we have these pairings and there's only 7 teams doing the daily challenge, because everybody gets a shot. Everybody gets a full view, and we get to see their round for longer than just going like, all right, we got to speed this up, blow through like 15 people, and let's get to like the main people in the beginning. And then at the end, we'll throw in like a heartwarming moment. It's like, no, everybody got their own parts, and it was really, really fun to watch. But yeah, I was really pulling for Nehemiah and Melinda. My gosh, I need those points.
What I really liked about the challenge is that, there is an element of not so much physicality, but, having dexterity, being good with agility and grabbing those flags. You still have to have good and quick reaction times, because I think we can underestimate how difficult it is to grab these flags when you're on a moving vehicle. There's moving vehicles below you. You're getting swung back and forth by your partner. There has to be a certain element of teamwork and communication that's important. And also, there is physicality, because whoever's swinging the big podium that they're on, they have to have some decent core strength. They have to have some decent muscle strength to be able to pull that thing back and forth as well. And we also saw certain people being disadvantaged here as well, like with Jasmine being too short to grab some of the flags. And, I felt really bad for her, because she's had 2 very rough weeks in a row here now. And Laterian and Jasmine, they look like they're on a downward spiral here at this point within the game. And, they're very lucky to get out of this time and not have to go down there because of the life shield. But is that now void in the next round? Do they save it because there was no elimination? What do we think is going to happen here? Because I feel like, sadly, it's probably void for them, and they will be at risk come this next elimination round.
I mean, I was toying with the idea that maybe because the whole round wasn't completed, that it might be in play again and they would be immune again. But then the people in my chat were kind of like, no, but they did go to elimination and somebody did go home and there was no life shield that was awarded. So to me, I agree with that sentiment. And I don't think that there's going to be a life shield in play next round.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, they technically used it at the daily challenge. That's why they weren't even considered to go into the elimination. And that's why Tech and Ayana were put in there, because they used the life shield. So this is going to be a very pivotal episode in the Challenge All-Stars 2, because there is no life shield. It's pretty much, the numbers are split straight down the middle. There's only going to be, I think, one team going to be voting now, because this past week, there was only 2 teams voting. It was Janelle and Darrell's team, and then MJ and John A's team. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's only going to be one team going to be doing the sole vote to send in somebody against the last place team. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fight for power. It's almost, you want the notion to be as the power couple, but you also want to be that vote at the end because both have extreme power as we move forward. Or the last two place teams just go directly into the elimination, but I doubt that would be the case because they want some drama.
Yeah. Well, this was an interesting episode because early in the episode, we saw Casey phone back and talk to her fiance. And as soon as I saw that scene, I thought, okay, here we go. Casey's going to go into elimination. Like, it's the obvious all-star storyline, which is pretty predictable, but it works within the 45 minutes that we can, we've got runtime on Paramount Plus. And then as the episode progressed, I started thinking maybe it's a bit of a red herring because it does not look like Casey's going to be in danger. She looks like she's got the political capital not to go in. I don't see how it's going to happen. She wasn't last in the challenge. And then we find out a bombshell of the moment here. Casey is pregnant and she's got to deliver this news to her fiance over a phone call while on international TV. Drew, can you imagine having a girlfriend go out there to go and play a show such as The Challenge and finding out that you're going to become a dad on international TV? What would it be like to be the partner there, sitting at home, getting that phone call from your girlfriend?
I mean, shock, disbelief, but then overwhelmingly happiness. But also you're like, wait, why are you out there? You were pregnant when you were jumping off of cliffs and giant trampoline towers and stuff. I just can't believe it. I can't believe that this is another instance of a woman being pregnant while on the challenge this late in the game. It's happened ever since season 34. I've heard rumors that Faith was possibly pregnant on that season, and then Total Madness, Double Agents, Bettina in Challenge 37. It's like, all right, when are we doing this? When is something going to change that we can figure this out? Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when she was taking the pregnancy test. I was like, are we serious? Are we serious right now?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was so shocked that we were seeing it, but I knew that she was pregnant at least after she filmed. And I remember doing like the math because she made a post on Instagram saying like due in April 2022 or something like that. And so I was like, wait, she would have been on the challenge. Like, whoa, this happened again. Like, and I'm like, did she get pregnant when she was on the challenge? And I was just kind of like speculating as to like what happened. So I was happy that they showed this in the season because it leads us for at least not having any speculation. And I'm wondering if when she was in quarantine, she wasn't detectable. I just don't understand how though we have so much technology that we're not able to figure this out.
Yeah, there's a lot of them here being called in the live stream. So we've got Faith in season 34, Melissa 35, Natalie 36. Melissa, the British girl, the blonde one. Natalie 36, Bettina 37, and now Casey and All Stars 2.
Liv was
Olivia as well. There we go.
Yeah,
so a lot of different. Yeah, a lot of different people there. And then Christina here in the live stream saying that they do need to do medical examinations before the season start. And you would assume that they do these basic medical assessments before season starts because it can't be good for the baby doing the stuff that she was doing out there. Luckily, she found out. She tried to keep it a secret here before the vote, understanding that her telling them that she's pregnant would probably put Kohara at risk because it's one person that you can vote against. She didn't want to cost him because Kohara went out of his way to become partners with her here this season and believed in her and the growth that she has seen on the show and wanting to come back and prove herself. And she felt really bad about the fact that he could potentially be in danger as well. And ultimately, this is going to be the reason that Kohara does go home. And, man, oh man, I was looking at this and I was thinking to myself, the good guy thing about Kohara is just so clear to see every time he comes on the challenge. He's a good guy. He's out there for the right reasons, trying to get some money. He really wanted to prove himself here this season, but he does get screwed. He's the good guy that always comes last at this point. And it's really sad to see. I felt really bad for him. I'm personally not too happy about the fact that he had to leave the game this way. I know TJ said that, you're going to be tied to your partner from this point on in the game. So whatever happens to them happens to you. It's not the first time we've seen something like this in the challenge where someone's been pulled out of the game when their partner is out of the game. But I do feel like this is one of the more unfair things that can happen on the challenge on a season such as this. He took it in stride. Obviously, you would, like he said, there's bigger things in life than the challenge, but he lost $500,000. Chantel, what was your feelings about this? I know you're a big Kahara stan as well. How did you feel seeing this all play out on the screen?
I mean, to be honest, as much as I love Kahara, I was team save the palace, save the palace. So I was like, the palace is saved again. I'm like, yes. So I was actually very happy that it went this way, that they didn't have to go against each other, that one of them didn't have to go home and they would just be on like a losing streak from that point forward. So I was happy with the outcome. I know it sucks for Kahara, but we saw like when it was super unfair, when it was Sarah and her rival Vinny, was it, or ex's Vinny, where he like he grabbed Mandy's boobs and or flashed her shirt, like pulled her shirt down, and he got kicked off the show and she had to follow along with him. And I thought that was really unfair at the time. So we've definitely seen in these partner situations where that's what happens. They go home with their partners. So I wasn't surprised by it. I felt bad for Kahara, but TJ did say, we hope to see you both here again soon. So when he says that, I feel like that means they're still both in good graces with TJ and the challenge, and they might be on like All Stars 4. Who knows?
So no All Stars 3 at this point, Chantel, for any of these two, as far as we know.
No. No, at the time, I was very happy that Tech got to stay, Nehemiah got to stay, that there was no elimination because majority of those players that were in the arena were on my fantasy team. So I was like, yay. But the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. Last week, Latyrian lost his partner, medically DQ'd, but then he just had to go into the elimination, and then he was able to pair up with Jasmine. Why wasn't Kahara able to have that same deal where Casey just left and then it was Tech versus Nehemiah, and then whoever left, Kahara would get their partnership. So, and even Kahara put it out on Twitter and Instagram, tagging both the challenge and TJ, asking like, why didn't you, like, he was like, I would think that the challenge would at least put down a table in the arena so I could at least do an arm wrestle to see if I could get my partner, since my partner left. But then he's like, well, I guess that's how it goes. And then he said Merry Christmas or something to that effect. So it is weird.
I want to say it defeats the purpose, right, for the challenge, that you're able to go down into an elimination, right? And I'm not taking any, like, I'm really happy for the King's Palace, love that alliance, but I'm also here for fairness in this game, right? And Kahara did not get a chance to defend himself. He didn't get a chance to go down into the elimination arena and at least try and save himself in the game. So, even if it was like a 3-way elimination, put all 3 of them down there with a rope and get them to push to get to something and see who survives out of that, at least Kahara gets a chance to save himself. Because if you're Kahara, Chantel, and you go out there, you make arrangements with your place of work. You tell them, I'm going to be away for a certain amount of time. I'm going to sacrifice some of my personal leave that I'm not going to get now to go and do something else that I might want to do and have a break. You make plans to go out there and play this game, and this is how you go out. Surely you would feel some sort of a way about the fact that you didn't even get a chance to defend yourself in the game, which is what the challenge is about. It's about going into the sand and proving your worth.
I mean, I totally would be pissed if I was Kahara. I mean, like, how come? Like, I totally agree with that comment that, like, why didn't the King's Palace, like, Tech go against Nehemiah and see who won in that one or whatever? Like, I guess they just, maybe what the actual arena challenge was going to be didn't lend itself to that. Like, maybe a whole team was going to be leaving. Like, I don't know. Maybe there must have been other things going on, or they just flat out wanted to save the palace. Like, that could be another option. Yeah,
it's making for good TV. It's making for good TV, but it does ruin, in my mind, Drew, a little bit of the credibility of the show when the producers potentially do things like this, and it's not the first time this has happened either, right?
Right. And I will say that my thought process is, I had this thought too when I was talking to Lovable Nikki earlier today. To me, it was the thought of, okay, so last week was when they finally formed the teams, right? So that was the first time that they were going to actually be paired up with each other in the dailies and throughout the rest of this game and in the elimination. To say that somebody gets paired up with somebody right away and right in the next instant, their partner leaves, to the point where Latirian's game wouldn't be gone if they were still solo wise. So for him to leave instantly after being paired up would be pretty frustrating or seem unfair. So I feel like what the producers had were all the paired eliminations ready to go for the rest of the season. But because of Kendall having to leave, they maybe found a pole, maybe they had a pole wrestle ready to go or something, and they were like, you know what, let's just move the pole wrestle here at this point, since we know and have ample time to get ready, and we'll just have a men's elimination, and then that's it, we'll lock it in. But to have this episode right afterwards gets it a lot confusing. Maybe the rest of the eliminations are all solely based in pairs, and they didn't want to do another pole wrestle against the men because it's like, okay, well, that's the only one that we can come up with like right away, unless we're going to throw rings now. Now they have to do pole wrestle with rings. I mean, it's going to get old a little quickly. So maybe they didn't want to pivot as much. And maybe they always had like paired eliminations when they were in pairs. But because of everything that happened with Kendall right after pairing them up, maybe that's their thing. But also I can also see where other audience members are saying that they wanted to keep the rivalries up and keep both teams that were filled with King's Palace, solely with King's Palace players in the game, to be at least have a little bit more even field going up against the rivalries going up throughout the rest of this game, the next episode, and into the finals. But that's just my thought. I'm just throwing it out there that maybe it was pairs and they kind of were like shuffling around a little bit, like, well, we can't do anything now, and it's going to be confusing and it sucks. But I can see both sides.
It's an interesting point you bring up in regards to the logistics, and I didn't think about that. The logistics of the show. If you've got a set amount of challenges and a set amount of what you're going to be doing moving forward, that sounds more plausible to me, because I want to believe that the production does not want to favor anyone over anybody else in these types of shows. And, you know, for me, this is probably the most plausible thing, that if they couldn't find a thing for them to do down there, what do we do with Kohara? You know, we don't have a plan for him to come back into the game. What they really needed, guys, was the hourglass all the way from season 41. It should have made its way into the challenge for them to smash it. And in this time, instead of changing the past, you go straight to the future, straight to the finale, and Kohara is there in the finale, ready to run the finale on his own as a solo player. But in all seriousness, it sucks to see Kohara go down this way in the game. You don't want to see a competitor, someone that took the time to go out there and play the show, leave the game under these circumstances. But, you know, hats off to him. I became an even bigger fan of Kohara just by the way of how he dealt with this, how he took it in his stride. He didn't make Casey feel more bad about the whole situation than what she did feel at that point. And Casey, to me, Chantel, you know, I didn't know who she was really before this season. I picked her on a whim. You guys told me how much of a terrible pick she was going to be for me this season. And listen, it didn't work out. I think it's safe to say at this point, with only having, and we'll look into the players pretty soon, with only having two players left in the game at this point, it's safe to say I'm not winning this draft. But, you know, I don't feel bad about choosing her. I felt like she had a really good redemption arc this season. She only failed to complete one challenge this season, but she did, in my opinion, come back and prove that there's been some growth. She's won some dailies, and I do think that if she wants to play the show again, she'll be a lock. I think that they'll bring her back for a future All-Stars in the future. What was your thoughts on Casey, someone that actually probably would appreciate the growth more so even than myself, because you did watch some of the earlier seasons that she played in?
I love that you said that she only failed to complete one challenge. that's the measure of like whether someone should be invited back or not. She only failed to complete one.
Well, there's a lot of people these days, Chantel, like in both shows that, you know, compete or sit out of certain challenges. Like, it's not unheard of for someone to struggle with something specifically. I mean, it happens. We had who's the other person that came back, Katie. both seasons, and she's been choosing which challenges she wants to do and doesn't want to do. It's common. It's not uncommon.
Anyways, I mean, I thought she had a really great showing especially from what I expected from her. Like we definitely gave you a hard time with that pick. And I do think she redeemed herself a lot. I would be willing to see Casey again in an upcoming season. I don't know if that would be the case, especially now she'll have a newborn child. So maybe in 10 years, if the show's still around, maybe she'd come back. But I guess I don't see it happening anytime soon. Especially because she's not guaranteed to win. Like she's not like a Jody. Like if she comes back, she has a really good chance of winning. So I don't see her coming back anytime soon. But I really enjoyed her winning the trivia challenge. Trivia is obviously a favorite amongst fans, and the fact that it was over heights and she was able to overcome that, I love that for her. I was super pumped with her leading the strategy in that elimination or that deliberation. So I thought that she definitely overcame her past, the views that I had of her in the past. And I think that I was really pleased to see her this season. So good on you, Casey. I enjoyed you. I won't be coming down so hard on anybody that picks her next time.
Yeah, I think Casey, I have to give it to her. She did great. I mean, she did better than what we all expected. She at least tried every single challenge. She didn't legit just give up on the side of heights. Yeah, she gave up on the trampoline one, but she went over and over and over again, couldn't get the leverage, and finally gave up. So, I mean, of course, at least she gave us a Casey moment, but it wasn't as bad as I'm not jumping, who would jump, or just not even trying. She at least tried every single time. I have to give it up to Chris. Chris, this is just an effect of bad luck, because no lie, Kahada and Casey, after this elimination, whether Melinda, Nehemiah, or Ayana and Tech lost, I don't see Kahada and Casey going into the elimination, or they possibly would have went into the elimination, possibly against Latyrian and Jasmine if they get last place again. But to me, I think that they have a decent shot, unless it's like physical on physical, but they had a great shot. They were in a very good position in the games number wise. And I don't think it's as bad of a pick as we were making it out to be on the hindsight of it. So I actually think it was a pretty decent pick. It was just a huge sport of bad luck, because I think they were guaranteed at least episode 8. And then I would trust both of them going into an elimination. If we're talking about teammates being even, and if they had to do something even, like with a puzzle or something, and they were going up against, say, Latyrian and Jasmine, who might get last place, and Jasmine getting last place 3 times in a row or whatever, I would say I would give it to Casey and Kahada. I would kind of lean that way. So I think they could have possibly made it into the final. Now, if it was physical, I don't know about that. That's a toss up in the air. I would give it to Latyrian, ripping both of their heads off. But I'm not. It wasn't a bad pick. It was just a really, really terrible amount of bad luck, and the challenge not doing any physicals or anything to make sure that this doesn't happen. But whatever.
Well, one thing's for sure, it definitely clears that I have not seen any spoilers, because my team is getting absolutely smashed here on this season, and I've only got 2 players left. Like, one of them is a great player to have, which is Darrell. Jasmine is great for the confessionals as well, but I am really worried about Jasmine going forward. Dabu here mentions that the next one looks like it's going to be endurance based, and that is something that Jasmine and LT potentially will finish last at. I know LT is pretty good at endurance. He did really well last season in that, but obviously you're only going to be as fast as the slowest person in your partnership going into that, and it's going to be tough. And we had a question asked here earlier by Lovable Nikki saying, do you all think that Jasmine will backstab Janae? We had a little bit of a back and forth here this specific episode, with Janae saying that the Alliance may have lost Jasmine, but she hasn't lost Jasmine, and they will never betray each other. I do think that, it would break my heart to see Jasmine and Janae go up against each other head to head, because they're just that good of a friends. I mean, when you're talking about good friends outside of the game, you don't think of Latyrian and Brad coming up. You think of Jasmine and Janae in that situation. Chantal, what do you think? Do you think there's a chance of a backstab happening there, especially now that there is the opposing alliances that they're in, and, they're falling on different sides of the house?
I think that Janae is in a much better place strategically, as well as a competitor. She's a lot better at the game than Jasmine is. And I think what may come up is Janae not being able to protect Jasmine fully. I don't think she'll ever throw Jasmine in. I don't think that Jasmine will ever be in the position to be throwing Janae in. So I can see, though, like maybe not giving Jasmine who she wants in an elimination or something like that, that might kind of stir up their friendship, because they do have a blow up that happens that we haven't seen yet. And I don't know if it was like she was mad at Janae or mad at a situation that was happening in the game, but we haven't seen that yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if Janae won some power or voted a certain way and Jasmine getting mad. So Janae is a lot more involved in winning. Like, she wants to win really badly, and I can see it in her, and that she will do what is best for her no matter what. And if that's at the cost of Jasmine being mad at her for a little bit, I think she'll take that risk.
I want her to win, Drew. I want her to do well. And seeing Janae this episode, she again, it just proved that her and MJ are going to be fierce competitors for the rest of the season. She went into the daily challenge pretty fearless, going for those flags, and looked like she had the time of her life. And they've got tough competition here for the rest of the season, because you've got Brad and Jody, who I personally think has to be the hands-on favorites to win this whole thing, just because pound for pound, they seem to be that team that everybody needs to beat. I think this was Jody's third win in a row here, this specific episode. So how do they stop them? And does MJ and Janae have a chance here? Or who else is the team? Is it Darrell and is it Janelle is her name? Are they the two that potentially could upset them? Who can stand in the way of this juggernaut at this stage? I'm finding it difficult, to be honest, to see anybody but Brad and Jody win this season at this point.
Luck, we saw there was an unlucky, bout here that Kata had to go home, and we know in these games, we always want it to be fair, we want people to have their shot, but they also have to have luck on their side sometimes, and so I could see something unlucky happening to Jody and Brad, so that they maybe they mess something up, or they screw up a puzzle, or something happens where they can be overtaken. But at this point, I would say it has to just be bad luck would stop them from winning.
Rolling an ankle in the final, hurting a knee, or something like that, where it's just, personally, I feel like a win for anybody, if that happened, would be empty compared to seeing a fair and good final running out. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'd rather see Janae win. I don't care how she wins. I'm one of those people. I want to see a competitor beat the other competitor at their peak. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see someone go down because of an injury or something like that, So, but I mean, it does at this point, to me, almost feels unfair having those two together, compared to the rest of the field. And that's mainly because Jody is better than half the men. It's almost like having two A+ athletes together in a team. Like, it's not fair, at this point, seeing them compete against anybody else. But I do hope that we see some resistance from some of the other teams there. It's going to be a tough one. Janae is someone that I personally would love to see win a challenge, because she's had one hell of a journey on this show, from the main show to All Stars at this point. And like Chantel said, you can just see it in her when she talks in the confessional. She loves this show. She loves to compete. And, those are the people we want to see succeed on the show.
I mean, I'll second Janae winning, since let me check. Oh, yes, she has a red square around her name. But if Brad and Jody also win, I'm cool with that, because I got Brad on my team. But it's difficult, because I don't know if I was hoping that Janae would be able to pull out some wins here and really stamp in some power. But maybe that's the strategy, not to do power, maybe not to try to win it, or try to stay in the middle of the pack, but stay up high enough to where you're valuable within your numbers or something. Because I just thought that her and MJ were going to be able to pull out some wins, but Jody has been crushing it. Darrell has been doing well. I just don't know if there's much clicking between Darrell and Janelle. I don't know if there is maybe some rustiness. Maybe they have a great friendship, but as they're playing the game with each other, maybe they'll start flowing and getting into the flow. It just doesn't seem like they're really like pulling it together, because we saw them stumbling a little bit here. They did well last week, but just weren't able to pull it away from Brad and Jody. I think this is Brad and Jody's to win or to lose, because like you were saying, I mean, they have to have bad luck, but they have to have a complete unraveling to not even make the finals at this point, because not only do they have to lose to get last place, to get directly sent to the elimination, because they have the numbers on their side. But even if they get into an elimination, then they have to also lose that, which I don't see them losing that either. I mean, I just think that they would have to have a complete unraveling for a full like 48 to 72 hours, however many hours and days there are in like 3 or 4 days together. But it's like they would have to have a complete unraveling to just be like, oh, we just lost it. That's how we're gonna lose it. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, they're just absolute juggernauts here on the game. But I mean,
Like,
I think both of those teams are good.
Like, what if like Jody, something happens at home and Jody has to leave the game and Brad has to go with her? Like it has to be something like that. You know what I mean?
Don't you put that evil on us. That's our players, Chantel. Don't. If Jody is talking to her family in the next episode, right at the beginning, I'm going to be like, dang you, Chantel.
You jinxed it. You jinxed it. We've got Sudani speaks here in the live saying, I love the King's Palace Alliance because it's my nature to cheer for the underdogs, but I also would be happy to see Darrell and Janae win as well. And Adrienne here saying this battle between the alliances reminds her of Fresh Meats 2's Kenny versus West. So for one of you guys who are a little bit more statisticians in the game, who is likely the Carly and Landon in this situation that is riding the middle? Because if I remember correctly, they rode the middle, right, and got to the end and then won that season, right? Is that correct? Is that correct? Remember how I remember it?
Landon kind of never takes sides necessarily, so I guess you could say that he rode the middle. I
don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a well done respect for being able to jump in between the alliances and then have to clear lane. But Landon was an absolute beast that season. I remember him carrying her pretty much on his back, winning that season. Did we ever see Carly come back, or was that her only season? I feel like that was the only season.
That was her only one.
Yeah.
But
so who would be those people in this? Would it be Nehemiah and Melinda? But Melinda's, because we haven't seen Melinda do anything at this point. I mean, I guess Nehemiah in this case is running his alliance, so he couldn't really be the person in the middle. It could be an MJ and Janae, because even though we know that they're on the other side, they're not the most vocal leaders of that alliance. Who knows? Who do you guys think?
I think.
Go ahead.
You can go to. I guess I would say, like, we know where Janae and MJ sit, but I would say that they are the most not having to do anything to choose any sides. And they've not had any power. I don't remember Carly and Landon having any power. I could be wrong though. I could be misremembering. So I would say maybe them two coming in and eking out a win here, and kind of upsetting the apple cart with like stealing the win away from Jody and Brad. In that case, I would say those two maybe.
So Fresh Me 2 was a huge season for Landon because he didn't make the finals in Duel 2 because he was in the alliance, but he wasn't fully in the alliance. Like Brad, Mark, and Evan were solely in the alliance together. And when Landon went to go get a pen, they were like, this is our best shot to get him into the elimination. And they were able to get him out. I mean, Brad did a great job, genius job. Also got help from TJ getting that extra point after Landon was body slamming him in that arena. But this was the season that Landon was like, I got to start picking sides. So when Wes wanted to get as many numbers against Kenny, Landon was like, I want to be fully in your alliance. Let me be in your alliance. But then when tides were starting to change with Wes and Evelyn, that's when Landon was like, I'm just going to be the swing vote. I'm going to be that door swinging back and forth. And he went over to Kenny's side. And then he was able to get all the way to the end. And he was in power a few times, but I mean, he was the pivotal votes. Even if he wasn't in power, he was the powerful votes to really nail in like Wes going up against Evelyn and the Kenny going up against Sarah and Vinny. So, I mean, that is where his power lied in that episode. I think that Jonna and I think everybody is good. Like the balance for every team is decent there. Like everybody has their pros and their cons, their strengths and their weaknesses. Some strengths are bigger than some of their weaknesses, Brad and Jody, and it's hard to see many weaknesses, but we've all talked about bad days and bad luck. And so, I mean, that could happen. I just don't see a Carly to land in here on any of these teams really. So
yeah, no one's getting carried.
I guess Jasmine and Letary.
Yeah,
if they pulled out a win, you know, I could picture Letary carrying Jasmine at least to the next daily. She's light enough that he could just like run with her for extra cardio. So I mean, maybe them too, just because she won't be necessarily helping them physically getting up to the mountain or what they have to do. So maybe we'll say them.
I think this is going to look like a mini final. I think this is the mini final that TJ is going to be like, look, this is the challenge where if you can't do this, you're not going to make it the next step, which is the final. So I think this is going to be testing everybody to their limits. And I'm so freaking excited. I had to remember what the preview was to the next daily, because I was like, what is it? Is it the truck one? We haven't seen the truck one with the 3 trucks. Where is that one? And I was like, is that the one? That doesn't seem like endurance. And then they're chained up with each other, running back and forth in the woods or whatever, jumping in wells.
Just before we move on from this topic of conversation, and I know it's not what this episode was about, and we're going back to Fresh Meats too, but I've never been able to talk to you guys about this. You know, I understand Carly was sort of carried to a certain degree to the end there to get the win with someone that is as good at just the challenge and physical things and puzzles and everything like Landon was back in the day. But they did beat a very capable team in Kenny and I believe it was Laurel who were together. I mean, hats off to Carly for beating a team such as that, because Laurel was probably seen as the strongest female back then going into that season. I know that she didn't actually rank first when they did the tests or something, or it was between her and Cara Maria, but Cara Maria was out very early that season. I believe she was the first boot with Darrell, if my memory is correct. Hats off to Carly for still being able to do that. It's still widely seen as her being carried at the end there, but do people forget that she beat a team like Kenny and Laurel, Laurel, who you would think would do well in a final such as that? Or
Laurel's come back and been able to prove herself. And so because Carly hasn't come back to either repeat her showing or show that she's not great, Laurel's able to overtake her now in being an amazing competitor. Like, she is consistently getting to the finals, consistently winning finals. So it just looks like it was a bad day for Laurel and a lucky day for Carly, just because we haven't had any more evidence on the Carly side, in my opinion.
When we talk about balancing teams and how you work well with each other, there was plenty of times where Laurel and Kenny were not on the same page, not doing well. I think there was one, I think it was the Sarah and Vinny exile, where Laurel was having to really help Kenny out, where she was like, just walk, just stand up and walk. Like, I'll help you out, but you got to carry it, like carry the buckets. And Kenny was really showing that he was, I don't know, gassing out. He wasn't doing well with the altitude. So it's just how you are able to work with each other. And I think Landon was able to really help Carly. Carly was having a very bad back end at that end with when they had to go up against Evelyn and Luke at the end, and she was just like hyperventilating while Landon's doing the giant puzzle by himself, and he's just like, just get some air, and he's like, I was like, this man is Superman. Like, for him to do all of that and be like, just walk, just keep on, I was like, man, this is incredible to watch. But yeah, she was having a bad back end of it, but she was doing well in the first part of Fresh Me Too, holding her own. But when it got to the end, I think the exhaustion was happening, but she was able to still pull it out. I think she had the best partner to ever have on a challenge, to where he could really go 150%, no matter what you were giving him. And he was always just going to be like, we can do it. He was never going to yell at you. He was never going to like try to rip your head off or belittle you as you're walking through the mountains or anything. So I don't know. I give it up for Landon for doing everything that he's done on these shows. But Carly, she was there. She kept up. She made it across the finish line, and they were able to hold their own. So
would you consider Landon being one of the bigger gets that they could get for any of these future All-Star seasons?
1,000%, yeah.
Yeah, because he's not rumored for All Stars 3 either. I haven't seen his name pop up. Do you think he'd be interested in it? Is there any rumors about him potentially being interested in coming back to the show, or has he completely just fallen off the radar, I guess, when it comes to Challenge World?
I haven't heard anything specifically, but he's still in the world because he recently got married.
I hope so.
Year or the year before, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they are starting to maybe entice him, and he's like, no, but maybe season 4 he might be convinced to come on. So he's not kind of out of the world completely yet from what I've noticed, but I don't know if he's turned down the call or not received the call at all. But I think he'll eventually say yes, if anything.
So the only time I've really heard his name come up was the initial, like, Mark Long trying to make the We Want OGs initiation to happen. And he was like, put out all these texts and then would post the screenshots and be like, this is Landon. And Landon said, yeah, if the dates are good for me. And then the whole pandemic happened and lockdown happened and everything got really screwed up and wired. But Landon, he's making a lot of bank on his own job. I mean, he sells high-powered dental equipment, like, really, like, he makes, I think, 6 figures, like, well into the 6 figures on a normal basis. So I think he was talking to Derek on his Challenge Mania podcast, and I think Derek asked him the same thing if he would ever come back, and he said the money has to get really big for me to really want to leave my job for a certain amount of time to come back. He's like, I need that guarantee, and it can't be for too long. So maybe All Stars for $500,000. I think he would crush it. I've seen photos of him now. He's in still really great shape. So, I mean, he would crush it. If you're 2 weeks and you make $500,000, that's a great vacation to get $500K. But I don't know. I don't know how much he is making, but I heard he's making hand over fist money, like incredible money on his own job.
It's the correct industry to be in to make money. That dental industry, anything in the health industry, I think you do pretty well for yourself. Dabu here in the live stream says, still waiting for these hookups with LT, Melinda, Janae, and MJ to happen. There's a lot of rumors out there that this happened, but you do have to wonder with some of these people being in relationships, will we actually see this play out on the screen, or is this something that won't make the TV show? If you were a betting woman, Chantel, what would you say? Do you think we're going to be seeing any of these hookups this season, or do you think this is going to be an off-screen scenario where it won't be shown?
Well, we do hear, or maybe tell me if you guys heard this, but I think I heard at the end of the daily, MJ saying to Janelle, like, great job, babe, or like kind of like some sort of like babe, baby, some sort of, coupley kind of wording that I don't know if I would be saying to just like a regular partner. It seemed a little bit more affectionate. So I feel as though nothing will be shown. We might see them getting closer. We might see maybe a confessional about like, oh, I really like him, but I'm in a relationship. I don't think that anything will be shown this season moving forward in either of those potential hookups. I think it would be maybe revealed after the season is over, and what maybe the aftermath of what happened when they went home, and then maybe into next season, because all those couples are on next season. So maybe that's where we'll see the development of these couple dubs, but I don't think we'll see it this season.
Yeah, I think because they're in relationships. I mean, when we saw the single LT and Anissa, they were single. Alton and Hizella were single at the time. So I mean, well, Alton said his situation was complicated. So I'll give it to them. At least I think that's what he was saying. But if you put in married people and then you're just showing off their business in front of everybody before they can like actually have the conversation with their if they're showing their infidelity, it might curb people away from wanting to do the show if you're like, oh, every single piece of my business will be out there. Not saying they should hide it or anything, or you should cheat on your significant other and not talk to them about it. Not saying that. I just think that the challenge wants to give the people a chance to say like, okay, I'm going to go talk to my husband or wife or whatever and give them why I did this, or instead of like 19-year-olds having girlfriends or boyfriends right out of college or out of high school and then being like, I got to call my boyfriend of 2 weeks and I got to say that we're off. I mean, there's a lot more legal stuff that has to go on if you're married with somebody and then having these extramarital affairs and stuff. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see it like Chantel was saying. I think we're going to see it next season because I did see John A and MJ on there. And then also there was a point where everybody was singing Save the Palace, and they were showing everybody else's like in the house, their faces and stuff. And MJ's head was in John A's lap getting his hair braided, which they didn't like pull out to show John A, but she always does his hair. So I'm like,
yeah.
Okay there.
Interesting. So what's the chances of Ayana and Tech hooking up? Looks like that's going to be gone by next week as well, with Tech saying that he can't control her, and she's going to go on probably another rampage similar to what we saw, I think, in episode 2, where everybody was thinking, what is Ayana doing? Because I'm starting to like Ayana more and more again. Like in the first episode, I thought she's queen. Then second episode, what are you doing? And then slowly but surely, I kind of forgot about crazy Ayana. And it looks like there's a little bit of that going to happen here in the next episode. What do we think, is in store for us here with the next episode between Ayana and Tech, who I've just loved this partnership. There has to be a hot mess partnership duo every season, and they kind of have been a little bit of that for us this season. What are we expecting is going on here in the next episode?
I'm thinking that maybe they're going to be put into the selection process again, because she doesn't like that position, being like, how dare you guys put me in there to be potentially selected to go into the arena? I've proven myself twice now, like to make me have to go in and prove myself again when some people haven't gone in at all. I feel like she comes from that kind of world where it's kind of like, I proved myself, I shouldn't have to prove myself again. And she doesn't really realize that there's more gameplay going on than just being consistent and loyal and respectful and in that way. So I think that she's going to get pissed off with that. And maybe Tech is like, just chill. Like, we can maybe get the numbers or whatnot. But I think that she's just going to blow up.
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of support here in the live for Ayana. And I agree. I mean, listen, I love the drama. There's a lot of people that I would love to see back on the challenge that other people wouldn't want to see because they are drama with a capital D. But Ayana is one of those people as well. I wouldn't hate her being back next season. She gives us something to talk about in these podcasts. Hey, Drew.
Yeah, and it looks like Jasmine and Ayana are going to get into it. So I don't know if that's like alluding that maybe Tech and Ayana win, or is Ayana listening in to a conversation that Jasmine is having about being frustrated about being either up for nominations or being thrown into the elimination. And then she comes at her because she's done like 2 eliminations already. Like Ayana has been in the elimination. She's like, go in there and prove it, win. And she kind of jumps on her like she maybe did with Sophia. And then that's where the whole blow up kind of happens. And I think what you were saying, Chantel, happens where John A was saying, oh, well, I got Jasmine. Jasmine will never vote for me, but it'll come down to a vote. And I think she's going to have to vote for Jasmine. And that's where we're going to see some friction in between. So I think that's for sure going to happen. Once you said that, I was like, oh, like it was like a brain blast from Jimmy Neutron. I was like, yeah, that's probably what it is.
We've got a Tina fan, Christina, the Tina fan here saying Jodie's boring anyways. She's a good guy. I hear you, Christina, and I'm joking. I don't know if you're a Tina fan, but I'm assuming you are if you think that Jodie is boring. Yeah, she is, definitely. But it is impressive to see her come on the show and be a challenge beast. I think that's something where you'd probably have younger girls potentially watching the show. I don't know if they will watch All Stars because it's such an all cast. I'm a new school fan to the show, so you might have some younger kids watching it. But someone like Jodie is probably someone that young girls would look up to and say, hey, I want to be a challenge beast like her and go out there and win 3 challenges in a row. So it's cool to see the different flavors and the different types of people that are playing this game. It's what makes it interesting. If every single person, actually, I probably would still watch the season if every single person was a hot mess. If we had like 12 Ayanas out there, I'd probably still watch it, and it would be a lot of fun. But you know, it is good to have flavor. You know, I'm trying to make a case here for Jodie, and she's not even in my team, Chantel. Why am I defending your pick?
Because that was my number one draft pick, and you know, you want it. Wait, how did that end up happening? Did I get to pick the girl first?
You ended up picking the girl first because I wanted to have the first guy pick,
Right.
and I ended up going for Darrell. So my thinking was I would go for the first guy pick and I think the third girl pick here. At this point, it's worked out well for me, but that's probably the only thing that has worked out well for me in the fantasy draft here this season. Drew,
your first girl pick.
My first girl pick was Kendall, and I think that Kendall, you know, similar to a Jodie, I would have gone Jodie if I could, but you picked her straight up, which I think was a very, very good pick from your part. I thought Kendall could do well this season, but clearly this wasn't hers. She had some bad luck come up this season, and she was out. I would have, you know, I think we were robbed a great showdown between a Jodie and a Kendall. Jodie probably would have still beaten her, but it would have been an interesting, you know, battle to see those two go up against each other in an elimination or go up against each other in a final or something like that. And also Jodie working with, I believe she was with Laterian when they first got paired. That was a partnership that won a daily last season, and I would have loved to have seen how that played out. I would have loved to have seen how Kendall, who is a part of Darrell's alliance, and Laterian, a part of the King's Palace alliance, how that would have played out. I think we as the viewers got really the short end of the stick when she was removed from the game this season so early.
Yeah, it would have been very interesting to see how the dynamics would have gone, and like and the decisions that Darrell would have had to have made. Like, is Laterian more of a threat, or keeping your relationship with Kendall? It would have been really nice to see him in that sort of dilemma. We did get robbed to see how it all would have played out, absolutely. And unfortunately, I think it's because of the life vest, and I think that we're on the challenge here for not making that a more safe daily for her to get hurt here. I'm kind of irritated that we didn't get to see this play out how it was meant to play out, you know, without having anybody being DQ'd. So
Kendall's become a bit of a favorite, Drew. Is she, because I've seen the All-Stars 3 cast once. I can't remember exactly who's in that specific cast. Is she back for a third season in a row, or is she taking a break here?
No, I think she's taking a break. I don't remember seeing her or talking about her. I think they made a lot more concessions to bring on maybe some younger challenge people that haven't been on the show in a little bit. So I think they let Kendall stay home or didn't reach out to her, and maybe we'll see her another time or after another round. Maybe she wanted to be with her kids and stuff.
She's on it.
Oh, she is.
Okay, so on it is Veronica, Tina, Janae. I don't remember who this woman is here.
Oh, that's Ronnie or Roni. Yeah.
Jemmy, Naya, Kaylee, Sylvia. I don't remember who this woman is.
That's not a cast photo, so I don't know.
and then Kendall, Kellyanne, and Melinda. So she does make it back.
Right, well,
okay, cool.
I'm just having a really quick squidge here through it as we've got Tyler's back. Wes, all
right, let's just draft right now.
let's get the draft going. Let's just keep podcasting the whole day. Kellyanne back as well. Yeah, Kendall. It's gonna Melinda's back. So it's gonna be an interesting season. I can't wait for you guys that are here in the live or listening to this later on. We will be doing an All-Stars 3 cast and draft assessment sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll find a spot for it. I'm on leave, so I've got a little bit more time than usual. I'm sure there's going to be some off-season content that we'll be doing on Drew's channel at some point, on the Angel Cake channel, which I'm looking forward to as well. And we'll definitely get into it a little bit more so in one of those shows. But as we get to the close here of this recap and this episode, Drew, where we're sitting points-wise right now, dare I ask, I kind of wanted to avoid it as much as I could and sort of postpone it for as long as I could here in this podcast, because I know it's going to go downhill from here for me. But what are we doing at the moment? Who's got what points? And I guess it's now between yourself. I really think, Darrell will have to pull something magical out of the hat here for me to have any shot at coming back at this point.
You never count Darrell out. So last week, Chris was in third place with 157 points. Chantel was at 173 points in second place, and I was at 192 in first place. I have to say that no standings change after this episode, probably because of the no elimination and everything. Chris, I'm sad to say, even with Casey getting her confessionals and everything, because technically it goes down as 2 DQs on the season, both Kahutta and Casey get -2 for each of their point totals. You only get 8 more points from last week to this week. So you are at 165 in third place. Chantel, you go up a full 18 points. Jody is crushing it. She's the all-time point scorer right now at 55. Need a little bit more pickup with the confessionals and wins from MJ, Janelle, and Latyrian. But Jody is absolutely crushing it. I mean, 32 confessionals, 4 daily wins, an elimination win. She has 55 total points. The only person with 50-plus points so far. But you have 191 points. So close to breaking the 200. My points are, with 6 players left, 222. I gained 30 points on the week. Brad is showing up with like 10 confessionals or 8 confessionals this week. He bullied up because of being partnered up with Janelle. He has a total of 42 points, and he did not have that close the first half of the season. But Nehemiah is the second highest point scorer with 47 points. Brad is the third highest, the second highest, or the third highest with 42 points. And then Darrell is the fourth highest scorer with 37 points. So we all have a pretty good point score on our teams. But right now it stands me in first place with 222, Chantel with 191, and Chris with 165, with only about two or three episodes. If the 10th episode is a reunion episode, and we probably won't count that because how would we? But yeah, so right now it's still anybody's game. It could be anybody's game. It's all comes
I'm
down
saying to that is Jody's boring
Go ahead.
anyways. Who cares? I'll be petty.
she's so many confessionals though.
No, I'm just joking. It's well done. I mean, you never know how these things are going to turn out. Adrienne did ask you earlier, since we're talking about the episodes, we only have 3 episodes left. Next one is guaranteed an elimination. Words are hard this time of the year. Do you guys think the last 2 episodes is a 2-part finale? My personal opinion is I think it probably will be. I feel like that's what they did in All-Star, so it was over 2 episodes as well. Chantel, what's your thoughts here as we get into the last 3 episodes? What do you think the format would look like?
I think it's a 2-part finale. I think it will have like purges along the way. Because TJ said that these are your partners for the rest of the game, I'm assuming that they're not gonna be trading partners. And so I can imagine though that they'll be like, you make it to this checkpoint, the last team to arrive at this checkpoint is gonna be out, and they'll like do that a few times. And I do think it's gonna be a 2-part finale. The last All-Stars, the reunion was on Zoom with Vernon, wasn't it? Or am I mixing things up? So it was on Paramount. It was separate. It wasn't part of the season, right?
It was
separate.
It was Maria Menounos in the studio, because there was that big old ring that Derek would jump into.
I don't remember who the other. You got it. You're right. Anyways, but that was a separate episode from 9 that had the whole season, correct?
Yeah, it was a separate episode.
It was episode 10.
Oh, was it? Was it episode 10?
Right though, Drew, and like maybe 8 and 9 is like the beginning of the final, and then 9 is the conclusion of it, and then we have the reunion episode.
Jeez. They really crunch these things in, right? Like I could easily watch 3 more proper challenge episodes and then give us like a special on the reunion instead of trying to squeeze everything into 2 episodes here. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out at the end. I think Drew Chantal probably is right in the fact that we will see some sort of a purge come in again with maybe 4 players or 2 players or something missing out and running the complete finale, similar to how we saw people drop out last season on it as well. But overall, I think we're in for a very exciting end of the season here. And, you know, I think we spoke about this quite a lot about who we think is the bookies' favorite at this point to win the show. If you had to put some money on, Drew, who do you think is most likely, if they survive the elimination, not to make it past the purge at this point? Who do you think that would be? And I think, you know, Jasmine and Laterian definitely comes to mind here as a team that potentially could be in danger, either in an elimination or in a purge. But if we don't look at them and we assume they're one of the next teams out, who's the other teams here that you feel sort of scared for going into a potential purge situation?
I guess we would go with Tech and Ayana, maybe. I mean, they don't seem to be working well with each other. And this past week, they got like second to last, which got them into the elimination because they didn't have a life shield, and Laterian and Jasmine did. Also, in the episode that they were paired up with each other, I mean, Tech dropped on her head. So, I mean, there is no communication there. If they are not on the same page and everybody else is, it's going to be tough for them. So I think that it's going to be Laterian and Jasmine who should be scared about the next elimination. Tech and Ayana have seen some eliminations this season and seen the arena floor, sometimes played, sometimes not. And they just have not worked well in communication with each other. And then next episode doesn't look like they're in communication again. So, I mean, it's going to be difficult for them, I think.
I'm wondering if the King's Palace wins this next daily, like somebody from that group. Maybe it's Nehemiah and Melinda. I mean, I don't see that happening because didn't we have a shot of Darrell and Janelle in the arena? And so I don't shot everybody doing their like, you know, I'm a badass, I'm coming into the arena. And so they're just like showing clip-bits of people's just as B-roll footage. But that hasn't come into play yet. And there's not that many episodes left. So that would lead me to believe that they would be going in next episode. And I wonder if it's against Jasmine. No, it wouldn't be if it's King's Palace. So would they have been the last? I can't imagine them being last. So that's why I'm wondering. Go ahead.
I have more concrete evidence of who might be going into the next elimination. I don't know if I want to say it.
Don't keep it spoiler free for me, like
because it's in the trailer. It's in the trailers. Everybody, go watch the trailers. I'm not going to say it, but
I think I've seen something in the trailers as well, which might. Yeah, I think I don't know how much I should say. I feel like it might contradict a little bit of what Chantal, the path she just went down with who's potentially going to go in eliminations, but I could be wrong as well. It's been a long time back since I've seen the trailer. But it's going to be interesting to see what plays out. I personally would love to see Darrell down in an elimination because we haven't seen him in an elimination for such a long time. And I mean, to watch him sometimes, it's like poetry in motion when he takes people out, you know, and it will also get me some additional points if he does go down there and actually wins it. And I need it at the moment badly. So he either has to win the daily or he's got to go in the elimination and beat everybody, because that's also another way he'll get some more confessionals. Yeah, you go ahead, Drew.
Well, also, it kind of sets up what Laterian was saying at the bar, where he was saying like he was frustrated that there were players that are in their second All-Star season that hasn't even gotten a taste of elimination or even be put up for elimination. And so it could be setting that up to where maybe, like Chantal was saying, a member of the King's Palace wins and puts up Darrell and Janelle for possibly going into the elimination and maybe even seeing an elimination. I feel sorry for whoever goes up against them. Let's just be real. But yeah, it's setting some things up that I don't know if they're actually going to pay off or they just want to have it nice sound bites for the rivalry.
And I feel like, you know, Laterian getting frustrated there made me like him even more and more. You know, last season, I didn't understand him that well, throwing himself down there, wanting to prove he's like this old school guy that will take anyone on, and basically being the reason he got eliminated himself for just playing a very balls to the wall type of game. But I really like him. He's a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, you know, and what you see is what you get with him. And I feel like with Laterian, like he's someone I'd want to be friends with, you know, because he'll shoot it to me straight. You know, he'll shoot it to me straight if I ask him for an opinion. And there's very few people like that out there in life. And I think in a game such as the challenge, it can be hard to be that straight of a shooter. And that's why he has felt like he has found his home with these two people who really get him, and Tech and Nehemiah, to the point where it got him even, he's this big, tough, grumpy old guy, but he was in tears when, Tech and Nehemiah potentially had to go up against each other because he's found a home with these guys. It's heartwarming. It's one of the things that makes me, like the King's Palace and want to sing Save the King's Palace as well. Guys, this has been a great recap about this episode. I think we've spoken about pretty much everything that we could in this episode. Unless there is something that you guys wanted to bring up here at the end, I think it is time for me to get ready and get ready to celebrate Christmas. Drew, you go ahead.
I just want to say one thing, and it has to do with the reunion of 37. Devin said, show me one friendship in the challenge that hasn't gone through any turmoil or anything or coils. But I say, show me an alliance that has a #1 hit song on their hands and a better theme song than Save the Palace. I'll wait.
Doesn't happen. We had a live comment earlier here, and I can't find it right now, that said, save the King's Palace over Alien any day of the week. And I do agree. Tech in one hit song may have overtaken Emmy already when it comes to popular hit songs being made on the challenge. Chantal, any final thoughts there from your end before we start wrapping it up?
We didn't talk about the fact that Nehemiah slept in his uniform.
That was amazing. Yeah, that was really cool. That was really cool, and you could see Ayana really loved the fact that he did that as well. And that's the type of thing we need to see more of. This playful nature, this lean into the TV show. We talk about it every single week here on the podcast. Is why it brings a smile to our faces when we talk about All Stars. I can always see the energy just lift that little bit when we go from 37 even into All Stars. The energy just lifts, and it's like, talking about a show that's a lot of fun, and there's always fun moments happening. So I'm happy that they're pumping these things out left, right, and center, and we already have All Stars season 3 pretty much filmed, dusted, and ready to go.
One thing though that I definitely like about All Stars is that the lightness and just they come from an era, it's like where they were always pranking each other and like playing silly tricks on each other. And some of these pranks went too far and it caused friction. But for the most part, a lot of these people come from the era where they just poked fun at each other, and it's enjoyable. Like, we see Nehemiah with the beard. We see him wearing the uniform. Even Ayana pulls out I'm wearing the uniform again. Like, they know what was working back then, and they're still that same person. It's kind of a playful energy, still playful with the people within the game. Even though you're going against them, they still want to have a good time with them. And so that's definitely one of the reasons why I prefer it, because they're enjoying being there, and I feel like they're there for the right reasons, and they know that they're making a TV show. They know that they're there to be entertaining to a certain extent. And yeah, I'm here for it, and I'm enjoying it.
100%. Well, guys, it's been great talking to you about this episode of the Challenge All Stars. For everybody listening here and still on the show at this point, we will be back next week at 8 p.m. Back on our normal time slot, Eastern Standard Time, to talk about the next episode of the Challenge All Stars. And we will also be covering at that time
I don't know if I'm actually going to be doing anything, but we should just consider that.
Okay, well, yeah, let me know. And if anything changes, keep an eye on the community tab on YouTube here. We will make an announcement if there's a different time that we're moving to. We might move it earlier. Again, I'm extremely flexible now that I've got leave for the next couple of weeks in regards to that. We'll also, at the same time this week, put up when we will be doing our Survivor recap, which will happen next week. Definitely, I'm looking forward to talking to both of you guys about Survivor Season 41, because I've got a lot of thoughts. I did a very brief retrospective with the Survivor Buffs, which is now also a separate channel on YouTube as well. So go check out the Survivor Buffs channel. It is a reality pop channel still. I was on a retrospective for that with the guys, but I feel like I didn't get a full appetizer for diving deep into the season, and there's so much more I want to talk about, and I know you guys have got some thoughts on it as well, and we have been holding off talking about it because we want to do it all live with you guys. If you watch that show definitely jump on there and have a look at it. So we will put both the times for that and also for the challenge recap next week on the community tab here on YouTube. I will also tweet about it. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, the description below has got my Twitter handle. It's got Drew's Twitter handle and Chantel's Twitter handle on there as well. Go give them a follow as well. Chances are you're following them already in any case. But, give us a follow, and then we will put that out there for you guys to let you know if there's any changes to the schedule. Drew, what's happening on the Angel Cake channel over the next week? Are you slowing down at all, or are you halfway to the top right now and just keep climbing that mountain and just pumping out more and more content?
For now, for the next week at least, I'm going to be pumping the brakes just a little bit, just for the week. I'm going to be doing the Challenge All-Stars 2 review and recap earlier on Thursday, now that there is no competing days for review and recaps for the challenge. So right now, my schedule for next week is just review and recap for the Challenge All-Stars 2, probably where the Challenge 37 recaps and reviews were, and then this live on Friday. And those are pretty much the only two things I'm doing as I'm trying to catch a breath for the holidays, enjoying to have a little bit of relaxing time as we're heading into the new year, but also filming a ton of content behind the scenes and then editing it up so I can get maybe like 2 weeks ahead of schedule, because I have a lot I'm planning on wanting to do. And also I'm looking into new shows to review and recap come the new year once everything kicks off. So if I'm doing like one or two shows of review and recaps, as well as trying to do like 2 or 3 other videos on the week, I mean, that's 4 to 5 videos a week that I'm looking into doing. So I might be killing myself coming into 2022, but I would like to have that week to kind of get prepared. So next week will be very bare minimum as we're heading into the new year, where it's just going to be jam-packed. So
hey, you deserve a break. You've been pumping out content all year. Take it easy for the next week. Kick the feet up. I'm sure there's some great things to come next year. And I'm sure that myself and Chantel would love to pull you into some other things that we're doing as well at some point. I would love to get you into maybe a little bit of Australian Survivor, mate. There's a Blood versus Water season coming up. So maybe this is a time to get you involved. And we've got the Queen, Sandra Diaz-Twine, playing in this new Australian Survivor season with her daughter. So it might be a really good introduction for you to that show as well. Chantel, what is happening on Reality Realness with 3 S's coming up over this next week? And are you taking a little bit of a break as well, or is it all guns blazing for you at this point?
Well, definitely going to be taking a break just because there's actually not content to be reviewing necessarily. So I'm not sure when I'll do the recap for this particular episode of All Stars, just because it's holidays. People are busy. I don't know if I'll do it on my own or if we'll do a double episode in a couple weeks. Not sure how that's going to work out. But as you said, for Reality Pop, just keep a look at the my Twitter and the community challenge on channel on YouTube or feed on YouTube. I will definitely figure out the schedule of what I'm going to do. So I definitely want to do an All Stars 2 recap. There will be a cast assessment of the new season of The Amazing Race. And if we do hear about Celebrity Big Brother, we'll be doing a cast assessment. But I don't think we'll hear about that until maybe the new year. So I'm not sure. So as things come out, I will definitely be potentially covering them. But as of right now, there's nothing specifically on the docket for next week, except for hanging out with you guys. So other than that, we're not sure yet. But I'm definitely catching up on all content. So I started watching the last season, Australian Survivor, which I hadn't watched yet. So I've plowed through 4 episodes yesterday, so I'm gonna get through those probably in the next few days. I did all of Love Island season 3 Australia. I just finished that. Well, almost finished that one. I have 2 episodes left there. What else should I watch, guys? What do I need to catch up on? I haven't watched Squid Games yet, which is have you watched them yet, guys?
Squid Games, yeah, I've watched Squid Game. It's a good show. Most people really, really overhyped it for me going into it, so it kind of was okay. I I don't want to say anything just in case I make you look at the show any differently. Go and
haven't
watch
watched
it. If you want to talk about it with anyone, I'm happy to have a chat with you about it afterwards. Similar to Australian Survivor, I know what it's like when you do these shows. You want to talk to someone about it. Like I just saw X do this and I can't talk to anybody about it. So that's why we've created this community where we can talk about reality TV. So, you know, any of these new shows that you're watching, if you want to have a chat about it, definitely hit me up afterwards. And if you like more just general TV shows, not necessarily reality, there's also The Witcher 2 that's just come out, which in my opinion was 3 to 4 times better than the first season of The Witcher. Absolutely love this season of The Witcher. The first season is a bit of a slow starter, especially for those that are not very familiar with the books or with the games that have come out for it. And with the Wheel of Time being on Prime at the moment, I just picked up the first 3 books for Wheel of Time. There's 15, I believe, of them to get through. They've just started the first season on Prime, and that's a pretty good TV show as well. So if you want to go and do and watch something outside of that, you know, definitely there's a few things there. And then I'm a massive Cobra Kai fan, and that's dropping pretty soon as well. So can't wait for Cobra Kai to come out. And Drew, I can see you're into the Cobra Kai madness of it all as well.
Yeah, you lost me at the reading books, but you got me back with Cobra Kai.
Yep. So there's a lot of content dropping at this point, I think, on all of the streaming platforms. So definitely no shortage of TV that we can watch. I'm super excited to see the new Amazing Race. I'm a massive Amazing Race fan. So really happy they finally get another season of that coming out as well. But guys, that's pretty much it here for us this week. It's been great hanging out with everybody here in the live stream tonight. Thank you, as always, for jumping in. I know we were a bit earlier than usual. For those that are watching this at a later stage, thank you for listening. Wherever you listen to the podcast or watching it on YouTube, it's been a great year of podcasting with both Drew and Chantel and the rest of the people here on Reality Pop, and we thank you for your continued support. We will be back next week. Keep an eye out for it, for the times and everything like that, and we're going to have a double header next week. We're going to talk Challenge and Survivor 41, so there's going to be some good content coming your way, something to look forward to. See you guys next week. Goodbye.